I stood in front of the rooftop bar's candlelit table, hand in my pocket, fingers wrapped around the ring I'd spent 3 months saving for. New York skyline behind her, cameras secretly rolling from two of her closest friends. I'd planned it all. The dress she wore, one she hinted at in a passing comment. The champagne, the private table, the perfect view. I wanted everything to be unforgettable. But not like this. She looked stunning, Alexis always did. Long auburn hair falling perfectly on that black satin dress. The kind of woman who made strangers pause mid-step. But I wasn't staring at her beauty anymore. I was staring through it. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited. I was just waiting. Earlier that week, I'd overheard a phone call she never meant me to hear. She thought I was in the shower, but I'd forgotten my wallet on the kitchen counter and stepped back just in time to catch her venom. When he proposes, I'll humiliate him and keep all his gifts. Like how I'm saying yes, I'll just let him spend everything, then bounce. Let him learn the hard way. I stood there, frozen. Not because I was shocked she was cheating. I'd suspected for a while. Not because she was plotting something cruel. I always knew she had a sharp tongue. No, what stunned me was how easily she said it. Like I was just a gullible idiot to be played with for laughs. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch. I just turned and left. That's when my plan changed. I canceled the custom ring and bought a cheap imitation that looked real under the dim lights. I returned the designer clutch she wanted and used the refund for something better, something symbolic. And most of all, I made sure to keep every receipt, every transaction traceable to me. Tonight was no longer about proposing. It was about exposure. I walked to her side, knelt down like a fool in love, and held up the ring. "Oh my God," she gasped, hand over her mouth. The crowd clapped. Her friends squealed. She didn't even look at the ring. She looked at the cameras. She leaned forward and whispered, "You're really doing this, huh?" I smiled. Then I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I heard everything, Alexis. Every damn word. About how you'd humiliate me, take everything, and leave." Her face dropped like a switch was flipped. The crowd fell silent. Her friend's phone slowly lowered. Someone awkwardly coughed. I stood up, reached into my jacket, and handed her a small box, not the ring. Inside was the receipt to every item she ever bragged about keeping. Bags, shoes, bracelets, everything. I'd bought them. I'd returned them. They were never hers. "This is your real gift," I said coldly. "One you'll beg to give back." She lunged at me, eyes wide, whispering through gritted teeth, "What the hell are you doing?" "Ending the show," I said. "Lights out, Alexis." I walked away as her carefully constructed world, her audience, her image, her illusion crumbled behind me. 3 days later, I got the call. She was crying, sobbing through the line, saying she was sorry, that it was just a joke gone too far, that she needed to see me. But that was just the beginning. I didn't answer her first call, or her second. But by the 5th call, curiosity got the better of me. Not sympathy, curiosity. I wanted to hear how she'd twist it, how she'd try to manipulate the situation now that she no longer had the upper hand. "Jake, please," she said as soon as I picked up. Her voice was hoarse, trembling. "You have no idea what kind of pressure I was under. It was a stupid joke. I never meant to hurt you. Right? Just a joke to humiliate someone publicly and profit off their heartbreak. Who were you trying to impress? Your followers? Your besties?" I asked. There was a pause. "Jake, you don't understand. People expect a certain lifestyle from me. Because you sold them a fake one," I cut in. She started crying again, but it wasn't grief. It was panic. I knew her well enough to hear the difference. Alexis didn't cry when she was sad. She cried when she got caught. "I just want to talk. In person. Please." I agreed. Not because I wanted closure, but because I wanted to see her try to spin it to my face. To see if the lies would keep flowing as smoothly as before. We met at a quiet cafe, one of the same ones we used to go to when things were real, before the designer labels and the influencer photo shoots took over our weekends. She looked different. Not because of the lack of makeup or the sunglasses half hiding her face, but because she didn't walk in like she owned the world. "Jake," she whispered, sliding into the booth across from me. She reached out, but I pulled my hand back. "Don't. Just talk." And oh, she talked. About how she was pressured by her circle. About how her friends joked about me not being on her level. About how the phone call was taken out of context. She blamed everyone except herself. "You know I loved you, right?" she said, voice cracking on the word loved. "You loved what I gave you. What I built. What you posted about." She had no reply. Just those eyes, wide and glistening, except this time, they weren't convincing. They were empty. And then she made her fatal mistake. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You had no right. I leaned forward, letting the coldness seep into my words. You planned to humiliate me for clout. I simply beat you to it. She slammed her fist on the table, drawing stares. You'll regret this, Jake. I smirked. Already started enjoying it. I stood up and left her there. No check paid. No final hug. No closure for her. When I got home, I blocked her on everything. And that's when the real unraveling began. Her followers dropped. Brands backed out. Screenshots of her phone call somehow leaked. What a coincidence. People who once worshipped her started commenting things like fake, manipulative, and gold digger. And every night, I'd see her number flash on my screen again. Blocked. This wasn't revenge. This was exposure. She thought I'd crumble. She thought I'd beg. But the only begging came from her. And I wasn't even close to finish. By the end of the week, Alexis had gone from curated Instagram queen to digital pariah. It was almost poetic. The same online audience she fed with my money and fake affection now turned on her with the same rabid hunger. Comments flooded her posts. So that proposal was staged? Wow, you're even worse than the rumors. You played the wrong guy. I didn't leak the audio, but someone did. Probably one of her own friends, one of those girls who screamed the loudest during the proposal, hoping to ride the wave of likes. Turns out loyalty in her circle was just as fake as her intentions. And now that her perfect life was falling apart, she went into survival mode. On Monday morning, she showed up at my office. Yeah, my office. The front desk girl walked in and said, there's a woman crying in reception asking for you. Says she's your wife. Ex-fiancée, I corrected. I stepped into the lobby, and there she was, sitting on the leather couch like she hadn't humiliated me days earlier. No makeup. Hoodie. Sunglasses she pulled off dramatically as soon as she saw me, revealing red, tired eyes. Jake, she started, standing up. No, I said, arms crossed. You don't get to come here. I didn't know where else to go. You could have started with a mirror, I said flatly. It's time you looked at the problem. She flinched like I slapped her. I lost everything. Correction. You lost what wasn't yours. There was a pause. Then she tried a new angle. Let's talk. Just us. Please. You know I still care about you. It was almost comical. How quickly she'd switch from angry to apologetic to seductive all in one breath. The real Alexis, stripped of her Instagram filters and fake confidence, was just a scared, manipulative wreck. I'm not the enemy, Jake. No, but you're the architect of your own disaster. She stared at me for a moment. Then her voice dropped, sharper. You think you're better than me? You planned that whole thing like a psycho. Planned? You were the one with the performance scheduled. I just changed the ending. Security walked up behind me. I waved them off. I'm leaving, she muttered. As she brushed past, she stopped and whispered near my ear. You think this is over? You embarrassed me in front of the world. I leaned in too. Good. Maybe next time you'll think twice before using people like props. She left, and that should have been the end. But later that day, I got a call from a mutual friend, Tyler. Dude, he said, voice low. Alexis is telling people you abused her. The words didn't even sting. I just expected it. Her empire was crumbling. And now, she was throwing matches into the wreckage, hoping to burn anyone nearby. But she didn't realize one thing. I had already started building something stronger in its place, truth. And she'd given me all the ammunition I needed. Now it wasn't about me anymore. It was about making sure no one else fell into her trap again. Tyler wasn't the only one who called. Over the next 48 hours, my phone buzzed with messages from people I hadn't heard from in months. Some were apologetic, some curious. But most of them were stunned that the perfect couple had imploded so violently, and more stunned by Alexis' sudden descent into madness. She's telling people you controlled her, one mutual friend wrote. I can't believe she said you hit her, said another. Is any of it true? Please tell me it's not. Came from someone I didn't even know well. It didn't surprise me. Alexis didn't believe in accountability, only optics. If she couldn't fix her image, she'd try to destroy mine. The new narrative she was weaving was dark, but it was also desperate. She didn't expect the people around her to start questioning the story. But they did. And I helped them. See, I kept more than receipts. I had text messages, emails, voice notes, even screenshots from when she complained to her friends about how boring I was because I wasn't wild like her flings. One of those flings, by the way, was already trying to ghost her after her reputation tanked. I compiled everything. Not to go public. Not yet. But to prepare for the storm. Because she was reckless, but I was methodical. That same night, I got a visit from the one person I never expected, her older sister, Rachel. She knocked on my door just past 9 p.m., looking awkward and apologetic. I hadn't seen her since Christmas. I shouldn't be here, she said, stepping inside nervously. But I needed you to know. I believe you. Rachel had always been more grounded than Alexis. A nurse. 2 kids. A mortgage. She knew the value of real things. She told Mom you were unstable, and that you threatened her. I laughed bitterly. I didn't even raise my voice, Rachel. The only thing I threatened was her ego. Rachel sat on the couch, hands clasped tight. I told her she was making it worse. That she should apologize. But she snapped. Said I was jealous. Can you believe that? Jealous? I asked. She said I was jealous of her fame, of the attention she got. That sounded like Alexis. Then Rachel looked up and said something that stopped me cold. She told Dad that you stole money from her. I clenched my jaw. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just trying to save her image. She was preparing for legal war. Smear me enough, and she could justify anything. Restraining orders, lawsuits, even some kind of twisted financial claim. She's spiraling, Rachel whispered. I think she's dangerous now, Jake. I nodded slowly. She's used to controlling the narrative, I said. But this time, I'm not backing down. Because I knew what came next. The lies weren't the end. They were just the start of her final play. The one where she'd try to drag me down with her. But she was forgetting one thing. I had already stopped playing nice. The next morning, I received a notice from a lawyer. It was a request for financial documentation related to shared assets. Shared? We weren't married. She had no claim to anything. But Alexis wasn't interested in legal facts. She was interested in making noise. The letter accused me of emotional abuse, of coercive financial behavior. It claimed I manipulated her into dependence, then abandoned her. The wording was masterfully vague. Not enough for charges, but just enough to tarnish her reputation if it reached the wrong people. She wanted me to sweat. She wanted me to fold. Instead, I got to work. I met with my own attorney that afternoon. A calm, sharp man named Leonard whose office looked more like a library than a place of war. After reading the letter, he looked up with a tired smile. She's flailing. This is pressure without substance, he said, sliding the papers back to me. But make no mistake, she wants a settlement. Something to frame as a win. She's not getting a cent, I said. Leonard nodded. Good. But then let's prepare to bleed her lies dry. So, I compiled everything. Not just the text messages or receipts, but timestamps on hotel bookings she made while we were together. GPS data from my phone that proved where I was during her accusations. I even found a voice recording, an old one, from when she drunkenly admitted she was only with me to get her followers up. Leonard whistled. That'll be useful. But I didn't want revenge through the courts. I wanted exposure. That night, I created an anonymous Dropbox folder and sent it to 3 people quietly, discreetly. Her former best friend, the journalist who once interviewed her for a Women in Business puff piece, and a brand rep from a company she still hadn't heard had dropped her. I titled it The Real Alexis and let the files speak for themselves. The next 48 hours felt like sitting in the eye of a hurricane. She went live on Instagram, cried on camera, claimed I was trying to silence a powerful woman with threats and manipulation. But the comments didn't roll in the way they used to. People were smarter now. People had seen the cracks. Then, one of the influencers she used to party with, Madison, posted a not-so-subtle TikTok. It was a stitched video, Alexis crying on one side, and on the other, screenshots. Real ones. Of her messages bragging about milking a proposal for content. Madison didn't even need to name her. Everyone knew. Within hours, Alexis deactivated her Instagram. And still, she called me. Blocked number. Same sobbing tone. You ruined me, Jake, she whispered on the voicemail. You destroyed everything I had. Was that your goal? Are you proud? I didn't reply. Because that wasn't the goal. The goal was truth. And she handed me the weapon herself the night she said. When he proposes, I'll humiliate him and keep all his gifts. She thought it would make her powerful. She never imagined it would make her small. But it wasn't over. She had one last move left. And I could feel it coming. I knew Alexis well enough to expect that she wouldn't just fade quietly. No matter how battered her image was, no matter how much evidence worked against her, she still had one thing she couldn't let go of: control. And when a woman like her loses control, she doesn't retreat. She detonates. 2 days after she went silent on social media, I got another call. This time, it wasn't from her. It was the police. "Mr. Carter?" the voice on the other end asked. "Yes. This is Officer Reynolds with the NYPD. We've received a report of domestic harassment filed against you. We'd like you to come in and answer a few questions." I didn't even blink. "Of course," I said. "Do you want me to bring the evidence now or later?" The officer paused. "Evidence? You'll want to see the timeline of messages and a recording from the day she made that claim. Also, multiple witnesses." There was another pause. "All right," he finally said. "Bring what you have." At the station, I handed over the files Leonard and I had prepared. The officers barely concealed their annoyance at having to deal with what they clearly suspected was another false report. Still, they had to follow protocol. I sat in a plain room under flickering lights, calmly reciting the events of the past few weeks while they took notes. They didn't charge me, didn't even detain me. By the time I walked out, one officer shook his head and muttered, "Some people don't know when to stop." Exactly. When I got home, there was a voicemail waiting for me, Alexis again. No longer crying. This time, her voice was venom wrapped in silk. "You think you've won. But just remember, you showed the world what I'm capable of. You made me the villain. And villains don't care about rules." Click. It was a threat. Subtle, poisonous, and real. She'd accepted her new role, finally. If she couldn't be loved, she'd be feared. And if she couldn't destroy me through sympathy, she'd do it through chaos. But I wasn't scared. Because she'd miscalculated one crucial thing. I no longer cared about keeping things clean. I reached out to a journalist. Not a gossip writer, not a tabloid leech. A respected name, one who had written deep dives into influencer culture, manipulation, and digital identity. I told her everything. Not because I wanted to punish Alexis, but because I wanted her truth on record. Something permanent. Something undeniable. The journalist was skeptical at first. But once she saw the recordings, the texts, and the timeline, it shifted. "This," she said, eyes narrowing, "is a pattern." Exactly. Alexis wasn't a one-time liar. She was a machine. A calculated manipulator who lived off of sympathy, attention, and status. And finally, someone else saw it. The article would take a few weeks. But I already knew what the headline would be. "Influencer Exposed, the Dark Game Behind the Smiles." And under it, a story Alexis could never spin her way out of. It dropped at midnight. No teaser. No build-up. No polite warning to the subject. Just one headline, piercing and cold, framed by two stark images, Alexis smiling on a yacht in one, and crying on Instagram Live in the other. The curated lie. Inside the rise and unraveling of a toxic influencer. The story spread like gasoline meeting a match. In the first hour, I got 15 texts. People I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were stunned. Some were apologizing. And some, those who'd once believed her, just sent quiet, heavy messages like, "I get it now." The article didn't just quote her. It dissected her. It included excerpts from the leaked audio, timestamps from her posts that clashed with her alibis, anonymous interviews with past collaborators and former friends who finally broke their silence. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like truth finally got a damn microphone. Alexis, naturally, exploded. By 2 a.m., she was posting furious stories, screenshots of old conversations, half-lies stretched thin, desperate captions like, "This is a smear campaign. Women like me get targeted every day." But the comments weren't on her side anymore. "You made a joke out of someone's love. This isn't sexism, it's karma. You literally said you'd keep all the gifts and dump him. We heard you. I followed you for fashion, not for watching a man get publicly humiliated for content." By sunrise, she deleted every post. Again, I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. I just exhaled. Because now it was over. The journalists had done what I couldn't. They reached the one audience that still believed her. And now they knew. Not just what she'd done to me, but how she operated, how she crafted reality like a brand, and how she used affection like currency. But despite the closure, something unexpected started happening. Strangers began messaging me. Men. Some short. Some long. Some with no punctuation. Some with shaky grammar and too many emotions packed into a single paragraph. But the theme was always the same. I went through something like this too. It hit me harder than any of Alexis' lies. Because I realized something, what happened to me wasn't rare. It was just rarely spoken about. Men like me, who get gaslit, humiliated, used, we stay quiet. We walk away. We try to be the bigger person. And in doing so, we let people like her keep their masks. But not anymore. I posted one message. Just one. Silence protects liars. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. It went viral within hours. Because truth, when it's finally freed, is contagious. And as Alexis slipped further into obscurity, her brand shattered, her sponsors vanished, and her name became a warning rather than a goal, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Peace. But there was still one last piece of the puzzle. One last conversation I needed to have before I could truly close the chapter. Not with Alexis. With myself. A month after the article dropped, life looked different. No more phone calls. No more surprise voicemails at 2 a.m. Alexis had gone radio silent. Her last desperate attempt to salvage her influence had fizzled out. Brands pulled their contracts. Her inner circle fractured. Even the ones who used to defend her now stayed quiet, pretending they never knew her. But even with all of that, her downfall, the messages of support, the silence, I still hadn't dealt with the one person who needed to speak up. Me. I stared at myself in the mirror one night, shirt half-buttoned, tie draped over my shoulders, prepping for a friend's wedding. I looked fine, healthy, sharp, stronger. But beneath it, I was still carrying things. Questions I hadn't answered. Doubts I hadn't faced. Like, how did I not see it sooner? How did I fall for someone who saw me as a prop in her performance? Was I just blind? Or did I ignore the signs because I wanted the lie to be real? That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't end when the person leaves. It echoes. It twists your memory. It stains the good moments until you can't tell which smiles were real and which ones were rehearsed. I remembered how Alexis used to laugh when I told her about work, then changed the subject to Instagram algorithm updates. How she'd cancel real plans because a brunch photo op came up. How she never looked at me when we were alone, only when someone else was watching. I ignored all of it, because I was in love with an idea, not a woman. That night, I didn't go to the wedding. I turned off the lights, poured a drink, and sat on the balcony, letting the city hum beneath me. Then, I wrote. Not for anyone else. Not for the followers or the voices cheering me on. For me. I wrote about the warning signs. The little lies. The way she made me feel like I wasn't enough unless I was giving something attention, money, status. I wrote about the manipulation, the silence, the sharp turns in her personality when cameras weren't around. And I wrote about the moment I finally realized I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her love. I needed mine. It took betrayal for me to see myself again, not the version she wanted me to be. The real me. Stronger. Smarter. Scarred. Yes, but not broken. And if you're reading this, if you've ever felt like someone saw you as less than human, as a resource, as a backup plan, or a placeholder, know this. You are not the problem. You are not the failure. You are not the one who should feel ashamed. The one who uses people, they always fall. Eventually. And when they do, let them. Don't save them. Don't chase them. Don't give them another performance to feed on. Let them drown in the silence they created. Because healing isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, powerful, and it starts with a single truth. You never needed them to begin with.